Okay, welcome back. It is 5/16 of 2015. We're going to continue with our look at Paul Ricoeur and his contribution to the introductory material on the Hebrew Bible. This time we're going to pick up with his look at the actual development of the reflexive historical narrative and how that emerged. And he wants to take it through the three moments of the development of the human condition. That's primarily his interest. So he wants to begin with the originary finitude, and then move through the posited human condition, and on to the making sense of the posited condition as the construction of a reflexive historical narrative. So it's all about the development of the human condition for Ricoeur. That's the way he views creation. So we begin with the originary finitude and the knowledge of good and evil within the condition of separation, which is what Ricoeur told us in the last lesson, was the condition basically of humanity as being in a condition of separation, and yet a condition of separation where progress still takes place within a history of salvation. So there is an inauguration of a salvation history as the naming of animals, or the work of signification. And Adam and Eve together represent the advent of humanity, separated yet still in a proximity to God in a historical salvation history. But from this originary finitude, this separation of an originary finitude, there comes the ethical realm evolving, and it evolves in a resultant posited human condition, which inverts the sense of finitude, distorts it, and creates the ambiguity of the human condition with which humanity is now faced. And this is evident in the second half narrative. Remember that the Genesis 2 and 3 contain two half narratives. Well, the second half narrative was the narrative of the temptation and expulsion, and it reflects a qualitative change of meaning of separation for humanity, according to Ricoeur. It mentions three episodes: the temptation, the trespass, and the trial, as concealment, discovery, and sentencing. But the shift of meaning is emphasized by a complete separating out of the Geschagens Bogen of salvation history. So salvation of history as a whole gets separated out. Humanity realizes that it now exists within an ethical realm, and they end up positing their own human condition as being one of ambiguity, out of which they need to make some existential sense. So the advent of humanity in separation becomes posited human condition. There's a posited shift in meaning, which is a meaning other than the originary finitude. It becomes a posited, impoverished condition of expulsion that becomes the new content of the posited, ambiguous condition of humanity. So this positive shift of meaning takes place through the agency of the hermeneutic of suspicion. That, of course, is the serpent, the mythological character of the serpent, who says, well, did God say, and starts offering these confusing, suspect analyses of what the commands and the limits of finitude were. It's the evil that is already present in objective reality, according to Ricoeur. That's what it symbolizes. And because of it, human desire becomes mutated. And fundamentally, it's a mutated desire as a desire for infinity, in order to defy the limit of finitude, which is considered suspect. So humanity passes through the stages of finitude, and that originary finitude, the declared limit of finitude, the hermeneutic of suspicion through the serpent, a mutated desire for infinity and to surpass that limit, and then all those moments become abbreviated in the creation narrative into a point-like dimension, and history is left, according to Ricoeur, to unfold outside of Eden. So now the historical development will unfold outside of Eden. and the originary sense of finitude becomes inverted through mutated desire. So what ends up getting posited is the irrevocable human condition of this ambiguity of trying to make sense out of this new posited condition within the ethical realm, the ambiguity of human existence that seeks signification and meaning. Now the 322, God is jealous, according to Ricoeur, just simply caps off the human condition of separation and its ambiguity. It's just a moment of final closure. So the third moment of humanity moving from this originary finitude through this posited human condition of the inverted sense of finitude by giving in to the hermeneutic of suspicion and the serpent, we move on to how do we make sense of this posited human condition, and Ricoeur says it becomes a reflexive historical narrative. Expulsion does not mean that human beings are cursed, says Ricoeur. Within the context of the Geschichtensbogen of salvation history, nakedness is exempt from shame, and the threat of death in Genesis 2 is never carried out, and the return to dust, within the context within which it is spoken, is the end of suffering, not punishment. So the inaugurating history outside Eden takes place, and the redaction process of Genesis 3 goes into effect, and it puts the primordial creation into a narrative form. Three creations become mentioned: the world, humanity, and the ethical realm. And the stream of primordial beginnings broadens to the stream of historical beginnings through Genesis 4 through 11. Now that we rack up 2 and 3, we move on to 4 through 11, which become the historical broadening. Ricoeur says there are two main categories that emerge: the birth of Israel as a people and the prophetic call narratives. And the birth of Israel reflects the call of Abraham, the passage through the Red Sea, and the crossing to the Promised Land. Prophetic call narratives are primordial without any precedent. They involve a face-to-face encounter with God. They occur without any other witnesses, without justification, and they employ the symbolism of absolute beginning. They are not bound to anything that preceded the encounter. So for Ricoeur, he says historical narrative that makes sense out of this new posited human condition within an ethical realm is a reflexive moment. In a circular way, the two categories become foundational creation events. So Ricoeur says we need to understand creation as a proliferation of originary events, and founding event simply means that the event possesses an energia of a beginning arche. So reflexivity is based on inter-signification and circular relation, and creation is revealed to us as an enchaining of high points of an inaugurated history. It's the enchaining together of the high points of signification for the creation narrative. That's what the creation equals. And so Ricoeur is very much centered. We're discovering now, this is the second lesson we've had on Ricoeur, we're discovering that he is very much centered on the idea of the development of the eschatology of selfhood. That's what he's all about. Creation is about an eschatological creation of selfhood, and it evolves out of that originary separation and finitude, passing through a separation in the moral sense of a positive human condition of having being internally woken up after passing through a hermeneutic of suspicion and making the mistake of giving in to that, trying to surpass the limit of finitude, that now the human condition gets posited of a fallen inverted sense of meaning in a very ambiguous human condition that needs to be made sense of in a signification kind of a way, where the self needs to get involved in signifying reality and what it means to be a human being. That evolves as a reflexive narrative that in a circular way can actually also be determined as originary creation. It becomes a part of the originary creation narrative for Ricoeur because it reflects back in a circular way the primordial creation story. Creation is an enchaining of significant originary events or high events. That's what we are revealed in Genesis 1 through 11, but it's broken down in the Genesis 1 poem, the Genesis 2 and 3 transitional historical mythical combination narrative, and then on to the more historical development of historical, what Ricoeur calls historical originary events. They're still originary events of creation. They are enchained as high points. So it gives us a very good look at the continuation of Ricoeur's emphasis. Again, not in conflict with the Lacocque at all, very much in tune with Lacocque, but with a very definite shift in emphasis onto the eschatology of the human condition and the coming into existence of how humanity acquires meaning for the human condition and the need for the Anointed One to correct that blurred vision of the human condition and its ambiguity. So that gives us a very good look at the second introductory section on Ricoeur, and we'll pick up from there next time.